Hi there guys, I'm Nikhil from Grady Tech, and in this video I'll be unboxing the latest Moto phone, that's the Moto One Action. Now this phone has been recently launched. It's priced at 14,000 rupees, comes in only one variant with 4GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. It's available in two colors, that's the denim blue and white, and we have the denim blue color. It's been a really long time since I've checked out a Moto phone, and that too it comes with Android One program, so updates are going to be really fast. So I'm really excited about this phone, especially to check out that action camera. So without any further delays, let's get on with the unboxing. So guys, here's the box, and this is a completely purple box. This is the first time I'm looking at something so purple. Anyway, on the front it simply says Moto One, and at the bottom it says Action. That's the Moto One Action. On the right side it says Android One, and that's truly a great thing. On the left side we have some information about the phone. On the back we have the main highlighting features along with a quick preview of how the phone looks. So without any more further delays, let's just go on with the unboxing. And that's all it takes to unbox it. So at the top we have the phone itself. Let me just put that aside. By the way, it comes with a free soft silicone case. Really appreciate it. Next we have some documentation, quick start guide, legal information. Next we have a 10 watts rapid charger. This is not fast charging, just Moto likes to call it rapid charger, and the maximum output is just 10 watts. I have to see if this phone supports fast charging or not, like 18 watts or 15 watts fast charging. Next we have the SIM card ejector, and there should be a charging cable, but for some reason that's missing. So this phone also has a Type-C charging cable. This is a review unit, so that's why it is missing. Still a pretty lame reason though. Anyway guys, now let's come back to the phone. So here's the phone, and it comes with this soft silicone pouch. Let me just remove that, and there we go. I'll come back to it later. Now on the front we have a sticker. Let me just remove that as well. It seems to be a used phone. So guys, this is how the phone looks on the front, and this is how the phone looks on the back. Now this is supposed to be denim blue, but as you could see it doesn't look like blue in any way. It looks more like grey. Now let's have a quick physical overview. On the back, this phone has a 3D curved back panel, which is probably made of fiberglass. At the top, it is a triple camera setup followed by dual tone dual LED flash and an engraving that says 117 degrees action cam. Beside that, we have the famous Moto dimple with the fingerprint scanner and Moto logo, and at the bottom, it says Android One. Now on the front, you get that massive display with the new 21:9 aspect ratio with a punch hole design. Above the display we have the earpiece, and at the bottom it is completely plain with a pretty big chin. Now for the sides, on the right side it is the power and volume buttons made of plastic, but they have a nice clicky feel to them. At the top we have the secondary microphone for noise cancellation and a 3.5mm audio jack. On the left side we have the SIM card tray housing a nano SIM slot along with a hybrid SD card slot. So we can either use two nano SIMs or a nano SIM and an SD card, not all at once. Now finally at the bottom, it is a mono speaker grill, USB Type-C charging port, and the primary microphone. Now this phone has a thickness of 9.15mm and weighs 176 grams. Initial impressions, phone doesn't feel all that thick, but phone definitely has a nice bit of weight to it. As of now, it's not too bad. So guys, that was the physical overview. Now let me just put on this case and see how good it is. So guys, this is how the phone looks with the case on. It has a slightly raised lip on the front, so it gives some protection when you place your phone directly on its face, but I wouldn't suggest you to do that. Next, it has a sufficiently raised lip for the camera module, so when you place your phone directly on its back, camera module is still very well protected. Now just like any other soft silicone case, this can provide you some extra grip and prevent smudges on your phone, but doesn't offer you any kind of protection. So as always, get a better case as soon as possible. So guys, that was the physical overview. Now let's look at the complete specifications. On the rear, it is a triple camera setup with a 12MP primary camera with f1.8 aperture. That's followed by a 16MP ultra wide angle camera with f2.2 aperture and 117 degree field of view. Finally, we have a 5MP camera used for depth sensing. That's for portrait shots. For selfies, we have a 12MP camera with f2.0 aperture. Inside that, punch hole design. Now for the display, it has a 6.3-inch IPS LTPS display with Full HD Plus resolution with the new 21:9 aspect ratio, and Moto likes to call it the Cinema Vision display. Anyway, under the hood, this phone sports a Samsung Exynos 9609 processor with Mali G72 MP3 GPU with 4GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. Right out of the box, it will be running stock Android based on Android 9.0, that's Android Pie. Finally powering all this is a 3500 mAh battery. So guys, those are the specifications. Now let's look at its highlights. Now the USP of this phone would be that 16 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, which allows you to shoot vertically and play the footage horizontally. It's a really nice and unique concept, and it's supposed to be the industry's first ultra wide angle action camera. Now the next best thing about this phone would be that Android One program. For the past few years, Motorola phones haven't been receiving updates frequently, but because of Android One program, this phone will receive regular software and security updates for the next 3 years. It will also be one of the first few phones to receive Android Q update and even Android R update. So that's really huge in terms of software. Next, unlike the previous Motorola phones which came with splash resistance, this phone is actually IPX2 water resistance, which also makes it the cheapest phone to come with water resistance. Next, it also has that punch hole design, which is a new design language. Very few phones in this price segment offer that. And finally, this phone also has support for Dolby Audio for the speaker. Besides that, even the processor used on this phone is pretty powerful. It's an octa-core processor with 4 Cortex-A73 cores and 4 Cortex-A53 cores. So even in terms of performance, even though it has an Exynos processor, it is still pretty powerful compared to the competition. So guys, now let me turn on the phone and set it up and come back to you in a second. So guys, this is how the phone looks once we turn it on. This is your default launcher, which looks exactly like the Pixel launcher. Just the same case with MI-A3 as well, which was also part of Android One program. On the left side we have the Google feed, and if you do a swipe up gesture, you have the recent apps, and you can do that again for your app drawer. Now these are all the applications that come pre-installed. We have Dolby Audio to improve the audio experience from the speaker. Next we have FM radio, which seems to be missing on many phones these days. By the way, I forgot to mention, this phone also has Bluetooth 5.0 and has an NFC. So that's a pretty rare thing to see in a phone in this price segment. Now let's go to settings and check out storage information. So guys, out of that 128GB of storage, we get about 115GB of space for our user apps and user data. Now let's check out the about page. So this phone is running stock Android based on Android 9.0, and right now it has a July security patch. It should receive August security patch pretty soon, probably in a day or two. Now let's have a quick look at the overall user interface. As I've said, this is your default launcher, and if you swipe on the bottom part like this, or even if you swipe on the home button, it takes you to the recent apps. Now these are your recent applications. Now at the bottom we have a shortcut for Google search, and these are some suggested apps. Now if I do a swipe up gesture from the bottom part, it takes us to the app drawer. Now these are your installed applications, and once again these are your suggested apps. Google uses AI to suggest you all these apps, so that's pretty cool. Now you might have already noticed there's only one button at the bottom. So when you're in the home screen, you just have one button, that's the home button, and whenever you open any application, you can see the back button as well. But as usual, there is no recent apps button. For recent apps, swipe on the home button in that way, and these are your recent applications. Now there's a nice little shortcut on this phone where we can swipe this home button to the right side to switch between all the applications in your recent apps. Now if you want to switch the current application with the previous application, you can just swipe the home button right side and it is done. This is a super handy shortcut. So guys, this is the camera interface. By default, it takes us to the primary 12 megapixel camera, and there's no option to switch to the wide angle camera. Now if we go to video recording, with the primary camera we can record video even in 4K resolution, so you can change that from here. It supports Full HD resolution at 60fps, 4K at 21:9 aspect ratio, and your regular 4K UHD resolution, probably at 30fps. Now this phone also has stabilization by default, and you can enable it or disable it from here. This is electronic image stabilization, so if you turn it on, you get a bit more wider footage, but there's no stabilization. Now to use that wide angle action camera, you have the toggle over here, just click that, and now we can shoot vertically and watch horizontally. Now this is supposed to be enhanced stabilization. Probably it is as good as Samsung Super Steady mode. I'll give it a try and show you later. So this is how the wide angle action camera works. Now in this mode we can only record video in Full HD resolution. It also supports Full HD at 60fps, but there's no 4K in this mode. Now let's check out the other modes. If you go over here, these are all the modes that we have. First we have the portrait mode, which is your regular rear camera portrait mode. Over here we can also change the amount of background blur effect, and this is for different studio lighting effects. Next we have cutout, where we can change the subject and background to different things. Next we have spot color, where we can make just the subject look in color and the rest of the things will be in black and white. I'll show you sample shots later, but for now let's look at the modes. Next we have cinema graph, where one part of the video will be fixed and the other part will be playing. It's a cool feature that comes pre-installed. Next we have panorama mode, which can be found on all the phones. And finally, live filter. These are your regular filters. Next we have slow motion and time lapse. Now let's look at the front camera. Now this is the interface for the front camera, and initial impressions. Front camera looks pretty good. Now let's go to video recording. Now for video recording on this phone, we can also record in 4K resolution, which is the first time for a regular phone. Most of the flip phones support 4K recording for front, but this phone supports 4K by default, so that's pretty cool. Next we also have features like portrait mode, that's portrait selfies. Once again we have split color, cinema graph and group selfie. Group selfie is portrait mode for front camera. You just take a picture and flip your phone left and right until you get a vibration, and then you get a wider selfie. So this is going to be my regular selfie, and this is the wide angle selfie. It's a bit blurred, but if you take it properly, you get a sharp image. Next we have slow motion video recording and time lapse even for the front camera, so that's pretty insane. Now finally we also have Google Lens integrated to the camera interface. So here's the button. Just click that and you can just point your camera at anything and search for it. So there we have a Batman toy. So let's see if it can find it, and there we go. So it does work really well. So guys, that's the camera interface, and these are some sample pictures. So guys, now let's test the face unlock feature. I've already set it up, and here we go. So face unlock is working pretty well. It's not super fast, but it's probably the second or third best out there. And now let me just try to close my eyes and see if it works. So if the eyes are closed, it just doesn't work. By the way guys, haptic feedback on this phone is really good. Like, it's not awesome, you can't compare it with a Pixel or a Note 10, but it is definitely way better than any other phone in the same price segment. For example, haptic feedback on Mi A3 was pretty horrible. Compared to that, it's awesome on this phone. Anyway, now let's test face unlock in low lighting conditions. Now let's see. Even in low lighting conditions, it works and it is pretty fast. And by the way, every time face unlock works or phone gets unlocked, we get a nice haptic feedback, and it does feel pretty good. Now let's test the fingerprint scanner. Even the fingerprint scanner is pretty fast, and every time it unlocks, you get a nice haptic feedback, which I really appreciate. Once again, fingerprint scanner is not as fast as Oppo or Vivo phones, but still, because of that haptic feedback, it gives a nice satisfaction. By the way guys, this punch hole design or the cutout camera is really huge. Camera itself is pretty small, but the border to the camera is really large, and because of that, even the status bar looks pretty huge. As of now, that's one thing that's bothering me. Now let's test the speaker loudness. So unlike the previous Moto phones, this one just has a single speaker at the bottom over here. And on YouTube, we can go full screen and have a cinematic experience. So that's pretty cool as well. Now let's hear the audio. So guys, speaker on this phone is sufficiently loud for media consumption, ringtones and alarms. By the way guys, we still have these Moto actions where we can do gestures like twisting the phone to open the camera application, and you can twist it again to switch to the front camera, and do it again and again to switch between the front and rear cameras. You can also do a chop gesture to toggle the torch. There you go. You can do it again to turn it off. So these are Moto's iconic gestures, and we also have Moto display, which I'll talk more about in my best features and tips and tricks videos, so definitely check them out. Now before I conclude, these are the Antutu and Geekbench scores. So guys, this is the Moto One Action. At a price tag of 14,000 rupees, if you're looking for a phone with pure stock Android, regular updates and something from Moto, this is a pretty good choice. And if you can ignore a bit in terms of camera performance, this can be a pretty good competition for phones like Redmi Note 7 Pro or upcoming phones like Note 8 Pro as well, as it offers a lot for just 14,000 rupees. This might be the best Moto phone that you can buy under 15,000 rupees. So guys, what do you think about this phone? Do let me know by commenting below this video, and if you're planning to buy this phone, use the link in the description, it always helps the channel. If you have any questions about this phone or want us to make any specific video, tweet out to us with the hashtag AskGreedyTech on Twitter and we will try to make it as soon as possible. I'm Nikhil from Greedy Tech signing off. Have a nice day. So without any further delays, let's get on with the unboxing.